Good evening, everybody. This is Casper from the Tropical Weather Threat Society bringing you our nightly update regarding the Atlantic Basin and other points beyond. First off, first thing that I need to do is to inform everybody that we are die-hard Florida State Seminole fans here, and Florida State Seminole football team is currently playing the Alabama Crimson Tide. And right before I walked in here, Alabama is driving the ball, but currently there is a very forecast of a very low tide here in the Tallahassee area as of this afternoon. Came in with a lot of expectations of having a high tide, but right now they're having a low tide. And as you could see, I've selected one of the many pictures that our very own Kylie, who is sitting in the student section there at Doak Campbell Stadium currently for the Alabama game, and probably has no voice by now, I would imagine. She's been on the go since 6 o'clock this morning with game day festivities and having a blast. So I decided to go ahead and, select one of the pictures here of the brand new renovated Doak Stadium here. And I know it is just an absolute chaotic mess up there right now. They're going absolutely crazy after having the season that we had last year and the way that they've shown up so far today. There is a lot of ecstatic people in Tallahassee right now. All right. James, you need to do me a favor, brother, and keep me up to date. I do have Jeffrey watching the score for me, but if you would please, sir, any scores, please link them into chat so I am aware of them. All right, everybody, enough of that. Let's get on to the Atlantic outlook. As you can see here, we haven't had any change in our highlighted area of interest out here in the Atlantic Basin. We are still at a 30% chance of development over the next 7 days with a near zero over the next 48 hours. As you can see here, it is expected slow development of this system as it moves westward to west-northwest at around 15 miles an hour across the eastern and central tropical Atlantic next week. So we've got plenty of time to watch this. So if what we do during the times to where we don't have a specific storm out in the Atlantic Basin, we look for what's known as quote-unquote seeds. And these seeds are known as tropical waves. We just use, terminology here, calling them seeds. Those seeds really show up on this particular set of models. So we have the Euro on the left and the GFS on the right. And this is of the 850 millibar cyclonic vorticity. This highlights areas of spin or rotation in the atmosphere approximately 1 mile above the ocean surface, as we can see here denoted by this graphic at 5,000 feet. So we're going to run this forward again with the Euro on the left and the GFS here on the right. And as you can see, we'll get out to about 72 hours. There is a very broad area of rotation here denoted on both of the models. Nothing tropical in nature at this time. As we get out to about day 5, both of the models are, the Euro's a little bit further ahead of where the GFS is. The Euro's about 5 degrees further to the west. Still, by the time we get to day 5, we've got a little bit of energy, but no coherent signal of a tropical cyclone. Now, as we continue to run this out and then get this out to day 7, at this point, there is maybe a very weak tropical cyclone at this point. But the one thing that really shows out and kind of stands out to me in these models are our high pressure. As you can see, it is a dominant feature all through this region. Now, we have a little bit of a trough right here along the east coast that will, eventually turn anything is as long as it's above the islands. Now, if it goes through the Caribbean, that's a little bit of a different story. As you can see here, there's a little bit more westerly component with the arrows. And then if it were to come this way, it is going to turn up and out. I certainly will, Henry. I'm actually going to address that all here in the same run that I'm doing here. Henry has asked a question here on YouTube, and yes, sir, I will be more than happy to cover that. So, as we could see, any kind of development out here, as long as this high pressure stays pretty much in this orientation, anything out here is going to turn to the west or west northwest. Now, we'll clear this and we're going to run this out to day 10. And as we run this out, as you could see, the Euro really wants to kind of lift this up much further to the north. The GFS, on the other hand, really loses coherency at this point. We don't really have much at all. The Euro still has something, but as you could see, has drawn way up to the north. And we have another approaching trough as far as the Euro is concerned. We have another approaching boundary here that is then going to come out and should set the edge on the high pressure here and allowing this to turn. It should be. But obviously we're working with deterministic runs that on a wave that hasn't even exited the African mainland yet. So it's obviously a little bit too early. Sea surface temperatures, I'm going to go ahead and skip that tonight because we know that there are plenty of sea surface temperatures to support tropical cyclones out there. So we're not going to worry about that. Now, what we have here, this particular graphic shows our humidity levels. And the top two graphics show our 500 millibar level. Our bottom two graphics show our 700 millibar level. Now, those levels, as we can see here, the 700 millibar level is approximately 2 miles above the ocean surface. Our 500 millibar level is approximately 3 to 3.5 miles above the ocean surface. All right, so let's go back here, and we're looking at the level of moisture in the atmosphere between that 2 and say 3.5 mile block, and how is that going to be presented out here for our little highlighted area of interest. Now we have both 500 and 700 millibar. On the left are the Euro, and on the right are the GFS. They're set by height. So as we continue to run this forward, here comes that large moisture plume off of the African mainland. We are waiting to see some type of signal of coherent development. We don't really have a lot, but the one thing that we do have is a large area of dry air, especially at the 500 millibar level, to whatever tries to draw up on this to its west. So you figure at about 18,000 feet, there is just to its west will be an extremely dry atmosphere at that level. Now, if we compare that down here to the 700 millibar level, we do see that there is dry air out there, but being that it is a little bit closer to the ocean surface, not as much of that dry air is infiltrating down here into the area where we could see tropical cyclone development or just consolidation. Now, here we are at day 5. Now, at this point, we're looking at the Euro trying to do a little something here, but it is intermixed with all of this extraordinarily dry air. And if we look down here, don't really have much of a coherent signal, but there is traces of dry air off to its north and west. If we look at here and compare that on the GFS, we've got a large pocket of shower and thunderstorm activity with some dry air that is trying to get down here on this end. But if we look and compare the 500 millibar moisture to what we see here on the 700 millibar moisture, that's a huge change, folks. So there is a considerable amount of dry air and moisture kind of canceling themselves out here on this northern side, is what it seems like on the GFS. All right, let's run this out to day 7. As we could see here, we've still got a just an absolute mess of dry air. I mean, that's the name of the game. That's the story. If we look at what we've got here with the 500 millibar and compare that what we've got here with the 700 millibar, we do have dry air right there. If we compare that to what we have with the Euro is an absolute mess. We've got a massive, tongue of extremely dry air. And then here on the 700 millibar level, we also see intrusions of dry air. So it will be very interesting to see how the models continue to respond to this, especially once it gets out over the open waters of the Atlantic. Right now, all the models are just in guess mode. So now we're going to look at the overall deep layer wind shear. Now the deep layer wind shear this runs from 200 millibars to the 850 millibar level. Now, that is from way up here at 39,000 feet all the way back down to 5,000 feet. So we're looking at everything and the winds and how they change with height all in between those areas. Now, as we continue to run this forward, we will note that there is some shear over the main development region, an increase in speed shear, and then potentially, some interaction with a upper level low that is associated, that's going to be off to the north and to the west of this disturbance. Now, at that point, that is going to introduce a belt of shear that is going to be coming out of the southwest, and as we can see here, coming out of the west with our storm located right here. Right now, the storm is kind of protected from that, but if this storm were to lift up a little bit too far, it could encounter these more hostile winds. Same thing goes for the Euro. We've got our storm here. We've got our upper level low, similar locations here and here, and that is introducing the flow here, although we do have very little to no flow coming in from the southwest. So there is some variances and differences by the time that we get out to day 5. Now, another thing that we will also note before we go forward is this area here and this large belt of wind and upper level jet stream, subtropical jet stream over the northern portions of the Gulf Coast. This is going to be associated with a stalled out frontal boundary that is going to create multiple little waves of energy that are little low pressures that are going to run along the trough. None of them are anticipated to become tropical due to the fact that we are going to keep these winds, as I continue to run this forward, you could see that shear is still pretty significant. And if development were to try to occur, you would want to see the development in this less shear region well off the coastline of the United States. So we're still going to get little waves of energy that are coming through, and we're obviously going to continue to have to watch the Gulf of Mexico back here, because if it develops out here, there is a very good and almost certain chance that it's going to race off to the northeast. If something were to try to get organized here, if it stays along the trough, it has to move across Florida to move out. Otherwise than that, if the high pressure comes in, it's headed that way. So it's things that we'll have to monitor, and we're going to look at the models here in just a moment, and you'll see that yes, there is little waves of energy that are anticipated to develop, but nothing tropical in nature. That being said, we do have some rainfall, though, with that stalled out frontal boundary. And we've got the NOAA blend of models here on the left and the WPC official 7 day forecast. Well, what will be the 7 day forecast here when I run it, all the way on the right. Now, as I run this forward, you can see that there is a considerable wide band of rain associated with this stalled out frontal boundary, especially for folks over the Florida Peninsula. The rest of us, maybe a little bit of a coastal shower running up along the Carolina coastline and getting here into coastal portions of Georgia. But the majority of this is pretty much for the Florida Peninsula, as you could see, along the southern portions of the Panhandle, and even getting out towards coastal Mississippi, coastal Alabama, and even into parts of Louisiana. Now, obviously, we can't see what's just to the west of this, but there is this band of rain, and it goes like this as it would run off the screen. So there is a considerable amount of rain up towards the Midwest. But as far as tropical nature is concerned, we look down here, especially for the folks here into the southeastern United States. Looking further into this, now we're going to run it out to day 7. By the time we get to day 7, they're both in pretty good agreement. The WPC has a little bit more rainfall value here into the northeastern portions of Florida, but the rest of them are pretty well similar. There is a difference for 4.0 inches on the NOAA blend of models here for Southwest Florida, and only 1.9 inches here associated with the WPC. This is the official forecast, though. So 1.9 right now. The models could trend that number for Southwest Florida up. If we run this out to day 10, we see that this pattern remains. Notice how the WPC will not go any further, but the NOAA blend of models will. Notice how this band of rain continues to grow. That means that this frontal boundary and that rainfall is still anticipated to exist and stick around for a considerable amount of time. So flooding and saturated soils and stuff like that, even though there's not a lot of topography down there, it definitely could be a mess or an inconvenience. So now, looking at the Euro legacy, this is basically the original European ensembles. I call it the Euro legacy. As we can see, we do have, and I'm going to pop this back to 48 hours. We've already got a little area of interest off of the southeast coast here. It is non-tropical in nature. As you can see, there's nothing on the outlook from the National Hurricane Center regarding this. There's just way too much here. Now, when we get to day 4, if you notice, we've got another little spot back here into the north central Gulf. As we continue to run this forward, it is theorized that it is, right now, it is going to kind of just move more towards the Florida Peninsula, may survive the track over the Florida Peninsula, may not, just be a mess of energy and showers and thunderstorms. And then here comes a little bit of a signal with our area of interest out here into the eastern Atlantic. Now, if we were to continue to, we're at day 10 here, so this is absolutely pushing it to the nth degree of its skill. If we were to run into, hold hands with Alice and go off into Wonderland here, you'll notice that there is a pretty pronounced turn to the north. So the Euro legacy, even if something were to get developed out here, is right now, tonight, favoring a pretty decent turn to the north, and that would then remove the potential threat from the United States. Now, if we take a look at the Euro AI and compare this, as we could see, we'll go out 48. Here we are with our little disturbed area out there off the southeastern coast tonight. Come out to 96, they are in agreements. We've got a little bit of a signal here into the north central portions of the Gulf. Running it across day 5, day 6, day 7, there's no coherence to it. There's nothing that's really left over. We're starting to see a little bit of a signal out here into the main development region. By the time we get to day 10, there could be potentially a threat from the Euro AI. Obviously, it's too early to say because we're out 10 days and the storm hasn't even come off the African mainland yet. Just analyzing the models, there's a widespread development is kind of all over the place as to where development may occur, when development may occur, and it's not very coherent. Now, if we were to run this off into, if it'll allow me, let's see, there we go. If we were to run this off into grabbing a hold of Alice's hand and walking into Wonderland, as we could see, there is definitely a pronounced northerly turn. Now, also, please keep in mind, you may see one line of a 2% chance heading into your area, like we've got one right here. We've got one right here. We've got another one right here. You may see those lines and think, oh no, there's a storm coming. Folks, each one of these lines represents 2%. And there's another thing that I would like to point out. You have signal from here to here. That is honestly like 40 degrees of longitude. That's 40 degrees. You do realize like most of the United States is only like 40 degrees wide, right? So, well, the continental part of the United States. I didn't say all of it, I said most. So don't get technical on me, folks. But yeah, it's a long distance that they have between one another. So if anybody out there is sharing those Alice in Wonderland timelines, yeah, it's kind of pointless. So we're going to now compare this, what we had with the Euro AI and Legacy with the GEFS, and as you could see, 48 hours, we got that signal here off the southeast. We come out to 96, we're starting to get a little bit of a signal here into the Gulf. We're getting a couple little lines there. And we'll continue to run it forward. We'll get it out here to day 7. We've got a wide variety of solutions here, running from about 12 degrees north to anywhere to 20, 25 degrees north. So it's all over the place. If we run it out to day 10, there's 31 members that are supposed to be showing a signal here. What do you got? 3, 4? Not much. If we run this, we grab a hold of Alice and take her on a trip, though, the one thing that I notice is down here into portions of the Western Caribbean. And that may be our little wave of energy coming all the way across and waiting till it gets way over here before it tries to do something. and we're going to be getting into the Central American Gyre season soon. Not now, but soon. Now, comparing all of these with the Google DeepMind, there's definitely a signal out here on the Google DeepMind tonight. If we run it up here, first thing I am going to do is I am going to put a signal, and the Google DeepMind is still maybe a little less than 50-50, maybe 60-40, with running a potential moisture train or moisture plume here into the southwestern United States. So stay kind of tuned to that, folks. Oh, lovely. What? What happened? Yeah, no. We certainly don't want. We certainly do not want CAG. Amanda, it's going to rain. There's going to be a stalled out frontal boundary, and it is going to continuously rain down there. Quite cloudy. I wouldn't expect too much like pool weather, honestly. It'll be hit and miss, but you get onshore flow, so it's probably going to be early. Now, we're running the Google DeepMind model, and we see these large clusters out here into the eastern Pacific. In the Google DeepMind, even though this storm hasn't come off of the mainland yet, there's not a lot to it. Now, we're out 7.5 days at this point, and look, folks, there's just not a lot to it. The Google DeepMind is not enthused about this highlighted area of interest out there, but you want to talk about some enthusiasm, take a look there. Out there in the Western Pacific and the Eastern Pacific, that's enthusiasm. That's a signal. And this is too, but it's nowhere near. There's 50 ensemble members with the Google DeepMind. And there's there's 11 total. Here, what we're looking at. That's 22%. Not really impressed. But we're still going to keep an eye on it. And I hope it stays, underperforming. We've definitely had some change in the MJO model today. As you can see here, it is firmly stuck inside the circle between about phases 4 and 5. Is forecast to rotate around, as you can see here, and then potentially come back and rotate right back around again. So, and this could very well happen. Could lead to, not having a large enhancement will lead to potentially a weaker suppression. So, again, it's things that we continuously monitor. As you can see, the ensembles are starting to get into a little bit of agreement to where we get that phase to kind of roll back through 8, 1, 2, and then, potentially amplify over the Indian Ocean and into the maritime Southeast Asia. All right, Earth null. Now, as far as the areas of vorticity here that are associated with this stalled out frontal boundary. So as you can see here, we've already got 2 areas of low pressure. Let's get rid of that. On the 850, we've got 3. We've got one there, we've got one there, and we've got one there. This is all associated with the frontal boundary, and all of this is going to exit. And we'll run forward here on the GFS. And as you can see, we still have the low back here, and everything starts to string out, and you get that frontal boundary. You get that troughing, signature here, and we're looking at about a mile up over the ocean surface. And then, as you could see, we've got a low here, we've got another little low there, we've got another little low there, and all these are trying to run up the trough. Or they'll stretch out. Instead of being like this, they'll end up kind of elongating more like this along the frontal boundary and then continuing to move up the trough. So to get a tropical cyclone, one thing that we would have to do is we see a low pressure center here, but look what we've got here. You've got this, and then you've got this as well. It is embedded within the trough. So if it has, first off, if it has any frontal features, then it is not a tropical cyclone. On top of that, the cooler air that is associated with this and the temperature gradient associated with this air mass, is the storm being fed by that temperature gradient of warm and cool or warm and cold, or is it developing from convective activity near the center, near and around the center of circulation? That's why there is criteria for tropical cyclone development. And it's one of the reasons why you don't see this on the National Hurricane Center outlook right now, because there's going to be multiple little areas of vorticity that run along. We would have to kind of get back towards the tail end, and this troughing feature keeps being reinforced. So I'm going to run this out a little more, and as you could see, yes, we may see, kind of a unconnected 800 here, the 850, but take a look at the 700 and then over there at the 500. This thing is getting sheared to death, and then at the 250, it's getting its tops blown off. So yes, we may have a low level circulation here, but there is so much shear that you're not going to be able to develop a coherent core around the system itself. Let's see. Oh, hi, Betty. I'm glad you were able to make the chat. You figured out how to circumvent that. Please let me know. I'm still trying to figure it out myself. Let me see if it works now. I've been using my phone to try to monitor the chat here. I can comment. Let's see what happens if I click on it. Oh, looky there. Now I can. Yeah, no. Now and honestly, Betty, I just clicked on it and it wasn't working when I first started the live, but it's working now because we've got multiple monitors set up here, and I usually put the chat on the other monitor so I can work on this screen here that has all the weather graphics. So, all right, now our dust model. Now, I know that I've been saying for night after night that we're not going to, we're going to shut this thing down on September 1st, but looky here. Look at that. And that's getting down here towards the end. This is the first week of September right here. Look at that. So like the final, that's day 7, 8, 9, 10. That's a considerable, that's a lot of dust, folks. That's a lot. So we may have to run it more than just tomorrow. We may have to run it into first couple days of September if that signal holds through. Yeah, Betty, that's usually when we get things to really start to pick up, and especially here on the west coast of or the Gulf Coast of Florida. It usually waits until the latter half of the season, and we get the cold fronts kind of coming down and kind of not allowing anything to continue west and wants to pull up and pop back. That's usually when we get our big time problems, especially there on the Gulf Coast. But it's coming to a point to where the folks here in Texas, your chances of seeing a hurricane this season are gonna start to plummet here soon. Just because of the way that the frontal boundaries, the storm coming in, unless it were to come in from like this direction, way up here from the south, and then pull, um, the chances of Texas getting hit are really going to start to go down as these frontal boundaries continue to move in and dig deeper and deeper over the southeastern United States, offering Texas a definite protective wedge. Not to mention that there is a high over Mexico that it would induce a little bit of wind shear potentially from the northwest for anything that was in the Western Gulf. So there's a lot of ifs, ands, and buts, but we're still watching them. So our global tropics hazards outlook from the Climate Prediction Center, as you can see, week 2, September 3rd, here located in the top, from September 3rd to September 9th, a small chance of development. But then when we get into week 3, that's when we should see a signal of action potentially picking up. Although I don't have a lot of signal, but you really can't trust things going out that far, getting into week 3 just yet. You got to look at the overall patterns, and if something's there, maybe. But if that plume of dust comes off in about 10 days, the way that it was looking with that vigorous wave, that's at least going to delay development. That's for certain. That would certainly delay development at least until the central or western portions of the tropical Atlantic. Uh oh, James. Hey, at least they're making it a game. Hopefully we win. I don't like to hear the rising of the tides. So, our tropical cyclone activity and hurricane for the Atlantic Basin, as you could see, we're almost to September 1st. We are almost to the climatological peak of the season. So we're anticipating action to pick up. Okay, jumping out to the Eastern Pacific. This is Invest 93E here. I'm kind of surprised that we don't have that named as at least a tropical depression at this time. The former little swirl right here, that's former Juliet. And then we also have another area of interest with this cluster of shower and thunderstorm activity. Invest 93E has currently a 70% chance of development over the next 48 hours and a 90% chance of development over the next 7 days. Our other area of interest, disturbance number 2, currently has a 30% chance of development over the next 48 hours and an 80% chance of development over the next 7 days. Tonight, I have pulled out the ensembles on these. The Euro Legacy wants to keep Invest 93L flat and run it out to the west, south of Hawaii. Our other area of, disturbance number 2, well offshore of the Mexican mainland, which is a good thing. The Euro AI, on the other hand, has about a 70-30 split, with some of the ensemble members being drawn up to the north and some of the ensemble members moving out to open waters, with disturbance number 2 keeps our area with Invest 93L flat and linear and does not allow it to gain latitude for the Hawaiian Islands. If we compare that to the GEFS has, I'd say again, maybe an 80-20, 75-25 split of drawing this up into the southwestern United States, or at least its moisture. The rest of them keep it going out into the open waters for disturbance number 2. Invest 93E does have a couple, not very much, but just a couple that get it a little bit too close. So we will continue to monitor it although we don't see anything from the other models. Taking a look at the Western Pacific, Tropical Depression Nang Fa was named, moved into the Philippines, is currently moving through Laos, and will continue along into Thailand and getting off and eventually succumbing to the environment. We have 95W also. This is forecast to pull up towards the north and northwest. So it may not hit the Philippines directly, but the moisture flow in on the back side of this, if this were to draw up like this, the moisture that would stream in on the back side of this would hit the Philippines pretty hard with some rain. So that's about what I got for everybody here tonight, folks. I don't have much. I am going to go ahead and end this now because I do need to get out to the television so I can either scream and yell at the television and or scream and yell at the television because, well, it's football season, folks, and my daughter's at the game. So, like that's something, in the student section. So I'm getting real-time updates from the stadium and then here on the television as well. So I'm going to sign off for tonight. We will be back again tomorrow night at 6 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Central, here on Facebook and YouTube. So please join us then. Have a wonderful evening, everybody. Good night.